Okay, so we are live. How about that? Hi, everybody. This is Steve Sabaneski, publisher of BayouBuzz.com. And today, I think we're going to be doing something really awesome. We're streaming to thousands of people at once on Facebook, Twitter. We're going to be talking about the Louisiana Coast with Congressman Garret of Baton Rouge, who plays a really important role up in Congress on the special committee. And we have Jimmy Frederick, communications director of the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana. Jimmy's going to be our moderator. Good afternoon, Jimmy. How are you doing today?
Steve, thanks so much for having it. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate what BayouBuzz.com is doing for us. Of course, we're live on CRCL's Facebook page. We're also live on Restore the Mississippi River Deltas page, and thousands of people are watching. And I want to encourage everyone to please send in your comments, send in your questions for Congressman Garret Graves. And we are trying to keep the discussion to coastal restoration, to our coast. With all the things going on in Washington, we could ask Congressman Garret Graves 1,000 questions about 1,000 different things, but we're going to try to keep things going pretty close to the coast here for just a bit. And please share and like the event. I don't want to waste too much time because I know you don't have much time, Congressman, but I want to just really quickly introduce you a little bit to our audience. And of course, you're the 6th District Congressman. That encompasses 13 parishes from north of Baton Rouge all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. And you sit on the House Committee of Transportation and Infrastructure and Natural Resources, and you chair the subcommittee on Water Resources and Environment, and of course the former chairman of the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority under Governor under Governor Bobby Jindal, and also a classmate of mine back at Our Lady of Mercy and Catholic High, and go Bears, right?
That's a great championship game.
Hey, listen, really appreciate you being here. Before we get into some of the coast stuff, I do want to say, I think there's an opportunity for some congratulations on HR 200 that passed the Natural Resources Committee. It has a lot of your language in it from the Modern Fish Act that you have proposed earlier in April. Just wanted to get an idea of what that means for anglers in Louisiana.
Well, you know, it's really interesting, Jimmy. When you look at the number of fishers in the Gulf of Mexico as compared to the West Coast, as compared to the East Coast, even Alaska. The state of Alaska has less than 1 million fishing trips a year. The West Coast with Washington, Oregon, California, the huge population densities they have there. They have around 5.5 million trips a year. Gulf of Mexico, over 20 million. Wow. So just the recreational fishing participation we have in the Gulf, the bounty of the Gulf of Mexico, largely related to the production of our coastal ecosystem in the state of Louisiana. It's really extraordinary. So a lot of people partake in that. And it's an extraordinarily different demand level. And so what this bill does is it helps to ensure that proper balance with recreational fishing, commercial fishing, charter, and importantly uses the best science to ensure we have sustainable fisheries moving forward for generations.
And that really is the key term for us here in Louisiana, is best science. Our blueprint, our coastal master plan, which you were a major part of the first one, and of course, subsequent ones after that. But Louisiana is really leading in coastal restoration, not just in our area, but in the world. And that is pretty special.
It is. And unfortunately, as we all know, Louisiana on occasion gets rated number one in different criteria. And usually that's, or I would say sometimes, being number one is not where you want to be, meaning the worst in things in some instances. This is a situation where Louisiana is absolutely a national leader, the national leader in sustainable coastal ecosystems, sustainable coastal communities. Other countries, other states come to the state of Louisiana and ask us for guidance, for advice. And the Coastal Master Plan, or master plans that have been done, of course, the latest one this year, are really on the edge of integrating science, technology, and policy. It's something we should all be proud of.
The cornerstones for those master plans are large-scale sediment diversions. We're closer than ever. CRCL has been calling for those sediment diversions since 1989, just a year after we were formed. We're going to be celebrating our 30th anniversary coming up in January. Pretty excited about that. Mm-hmm. But, the point is that it's a very complex permitting process. And I guess the question for you at the federal level is there anything we can do to kind of help speed that up? I know this is not the first time you've heard that question.
Yeah. Laws that are in place today, things like the Marine Mammal Protection Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, wetlands regulations related to Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. Those laws largely came into place in the 1970s and beyond. Had those laws been in place back when the Corps of Engineers was building levees on our river system, we probably wouldn't be in the predicament we're in today, where we've lost nearly 2,000 square miles of our coast. So these same laws that actually would have helped to protect our coast in the 1930s when these levees are built, today, in many cases, they're actually impeding our ability to move forward. The National Environmental Policy Act, we're studying the impacts to the environment of restoring the environment, restoring the coast. These projects are designed to benefit the environment, to benefit ecological productivity, to benefit fisheries and birds and other things that are so important to the sportsman's paradise. And during the time it's taking us to go through these studies and evaluations, we're losing more of the coast. Same thing with Marine Mammal Protection Act, same thing in some cases with essential fish habitat, where National Marine Fisheries Service is saying that areas that are now open water, but years ago were land, we now have to give deference to the fish. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why are we mitigating for the fish when the fish didn't mitigate for the people who take our lands? So trying to work through these laws to make sure that they're working in an effective manner to truly benefit the environment, not to get in the way of projects designed to restore our coast and our communities in South Louisiana.
Is there anything that we as citizens can do? I mean, is there anything that would help get that message across?
You know, Jimmy, I think that in many cases, when you talk about touching environmental laws, things like the National Environmental Policy Act, the Endangered Species Act, a lot of these laws are considered to be the holy grail, sacrosanct. You can't touch them. If a Republican talks about touching them, it's only to take away environmental protections. If a Democrat talks about touching them, it's only to make it harder to do things. And the reality is there's nothing political about this. It's what's in the best interest of South Louisiana, the best interest of this country. And I think educating people and helping them to understand that. And I say people, I mean members of Congress, helping them to understand, helping federal agencies to understand that this isn't some partisan deal designed to injure the environment or endangered species or others. This is in the best interest of the country, and it's about advancing efforts to restore our coast and make Louisiana more resilient and sustainable.
Well, you mentioned the Endangered Species Act, and I just want to know how close the Cajuns are actually being put on that list. I thought that was a beautiful way to put it on the floor of Congress, on the floor of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, you know, we have been doing a lot of work, and Stephen, I don't know if we talked about this, but we've been doing a lot of work on the Endangered Species Act and just looking at ways to apply more common sense to it. And the more I looked at it, I said, gosh, if we can deem ourselves as endangered species, we'll get all these protections. The federal government will come in and help us to restore the coast, as opposed to fighting our efforts to restore the coast and protect our communities in South Louisiana. So I did propose an amendment to deem Cajuns as endangered species, so the federal government would protect us as well. Today I threatened to deem Cajuns fish, so we could get essential fish habitat protection. But you know, as comical as that is, it did bring a lot of attention and just sort of a different perspective to some of these laws, and helping folks understand that we can't forget about people, about the community, whenever we're considering or applying these laws.